Welcome back, everyone. It's been a while since the last update. My apologies about that, but I am trying to get back into recording the lessons as things are finally starting to calm down. We're back at work. So when things are where I don't have a class and I don't have virtual support for my students to be working on or a meeting to go to, I will be trying to work on these videos and these lessons again. We are in John chapter 4, verses 1 through 43, trying to help with the glare by taking my glasses off. So if I stumble across a few words, it's because I'm trying to read the scriptures and the writings without my glasses, and I wear glasses for a reason. I've got really bad eyesight. So John chapter 4, verses 1 through 43, we were picking up with Jesus heading towards, I believe it was Sychar. And so when Jesus knew that the Pharisees heard that Jesus was making and baptizing more disciples than John, although Jesus himself was not baptizing, but his disciples, and having heard that John was handed over to prison, which is in Matthew 4:12, so this is that point, he left Judea and went again toward Galilee. And he had to go through Samaria. So he comes into a city of Samaria, being called Sychar, near the place which Jacob gave to his son Joseph. Now a spring of Jacob was there. So Jesus, having become weary from the journey, was sitting thus at the spring. The hour was about the 6th. A woman of Samaria comes to draw water. Jesus says to her, "Give me water to drink." For his disciples had gone into the city in order that they might buy food. So the Samaritan woman says to him, "How is it you, being a Jew, are asking something to drink from me, being a Samaritan woman?" For Jews do not use things together with Samaritans. Jesus responded and said to her, "If you knew the gift of God and who the one saying to you, 'Give me water to drink' is, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." The woman says to him, "Sir, you have no bucket, and the well is deep. From where then do you have the living water? You are not greater than our father Jacob, are you, who gave us this well, and himself drank from it, and his sons and his animals?" Jesus responded and said to her, "Everyone drinking from this water will thirst again, but whoever should drink from the water which I will give him, he will never thirst ever. On the contrary, the water which I will give him will become a spring of water in him, bubbling up to eternal life." The woman says to him, "Sir, give me this water in order that I may not be thirsting, nor coming here to draw it." He says to her, "Go, call your husband and come here." The woman responded and said to him, "I do not have a husband." Jesus says to her, "You said rightly that I do not have a husband. For you had 5 husbands, and now he whom you have is not your husband. You have spoken this as a true thing." And we're going to pause there for a moment because we have a few things to look at with that. Alright, I've got my glasses back on because the right eye and left eye difference without my glasses was throwing me off. I'm trying to focus and read. With this, we see a few rather large issues that don't appear large at first. It's kind of weird that Jesus is sitting here. We know who Jesus is. And the Samaritan woman has the response that she has. How is it you, being a Jew, are asking something to drink from me, being a Samaritan woman? This was an issue where it was cultural. Samaritans and Jews did not get along very well. Samaritans and Gentiles did not really get along well. The Samaritans were kind of the outcast of both populations in this region. It's a good way to look at it. And that was because Samaritans, they're Samaritans. I can't really say they're technically Gentiles, but they are Gentile on one side of their family, and on the other side of their family, they're Jews. So they're not a full Jew, and they're not a full Gentile. They're that mixed part. And that was something that was very frowned upon at this time, which was an issue because Israel had been told in the Old Testament what they were supposed to do with those who were not part of the Israelites, and that was they were to welcome him. They were to welcome them. They were to tell them about Jesus, about God, because Jesus had not been born yet, but they were to tell them about the coming Messiah. They were to take care of them. They were to tell them about him. And if the Gentile wanted to become a Jew, they were supposed to accept them with open arms. And if they weren't, then they were supposed to wish them well, take care of them, and let them go about in peace. They were supposed to help them and then send them on. And here, they were shunning them. They were saying, if you're not a full Jew, we got nothing to do with you. And that flew in the face of everything that they had been taught back when they were in the Old Testament. And so at this point, there was a lot of animosity. So she's sitting here going, why would you, a Jew, talk to me being a Samaritan? And we'll see this mindset come back in a little bit. And he sits there and responds, if you knew who was talking to you, you'd be telling me to give you water. But he has no bucket. And so this really confuses her even further, because she's sitting here thinking, okay, he's at the well. He wants me to draw him water because I have a bucket and he doesn't. And now he's saying if I understood, I would be asking him for the water even though I'm the one with the bucket. She really had to be confused at this point, especially when he starts talking about living water. And he brings up a very important part here. He says, on the contrary, the water which I will give him will become a spring of water in him, bubbling up to eternal life. This is another one of those scriptures where people that say, you can lose your salvation. It's not really eternal. Well, eternal means it doesn't have the confinement of time that we put on it. So when he says it bubbles up to eternal life, that's the result of the water being brought into them. They will have eternal life. Period. And so the woman then says, give it to me. Okay, if I don't have to keep drinking water because she's still thinking about this well, then go ahead and give it to me. I want this. I would love to not have to keep drinking water or root beer or Coca-Cola or Kool-Aid or whatever I'm going to be drinking that day. Being thirsty, especially when you're in the middle of a song or teaching a class, it's not fun. It's not something that, you want. So if you never had to thirst again, man, that'd be great. And she had to draw water out of a well. She had to work for that water. We just go to the faucet and turn it on. We think that's an inconvenience. But he says, go call your husband. She goes, I don't have one. And now things finally start to kick in for her, because he responds and says, you said right. You don't have a husband. You had 5. They've never met. But he tells her, you've had 5. And the one you're with right now isn't even your husband. You're just living with him. You're not even married. And so now it finally clicks. And so we pick up in verse 19 where she says, the woman says to him, Sir, I perceive that you are a prophet. So now she realizes he's not talking about what she thinks he's talking about. He's talking about something spiritual. And so she quickly changes the topic, because prophets, they never brought good news in their opinion. If a prophet came, it was to tell them they were doing something wrong. And so she's going to take this understanding that he's speaking spiritual, and she's going to change the subject. And she says, our fathers worshipped on this mountain, and you Jews, so she's still trying to separate herself from being a Jew, you Jews say that the place where one must worship is in Jerusalem. And Jesus says to her, believe me, woman, that an hour is coming when you Samaritans will give worship to the Father, neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. You Samaritans worship what you do not know. We Jews worship what we know, because salvation is from the Jews. Now, we're going to pause again because there's some interesting stuff here as well. She sits there and says, look, there's this conflict between us. You say we have to go here. We say we have to come here. And he just says, look, neither place is accurate. There's going to be a time coming, not yet, but there is a time coming, and it would be just a few years after this, where you wouldn't have to go to worship at a specific spot because that veil would be rent. He doesn't explain all that to her, but he tells her the time is coming. And he says, you Samaritans worship what you do not know. Because again, Samaritans were a mix of Gentile and Jew. And so there was cultures coming together, and so they did not have that same grasp. Things get watered down when you mix cultures. If a Christian marries a Greek, somebody who worships the Greek gods, then their children are not going to have the same grasp. I've seen this even in families in America, where I've met some people who they had one parent who was Catholic, another parent who was Christian, and they're sitting here going, they've got this conflict. Do I believe that I can pray to Jesus and God directly like the Christians teach in Hebrews, or do I have to go through Mary to pray like I'm taught by the traditions of Catholicism? And so there's this conflict between what they're taught by their opposing religions, because they are not the same. And so he tells her, we Jews worship what we know because salvation is from the Jews. He doesn't say it is for the Jews. The Jews had gotten into this mindset of salvation is for us. If you're a Jew, that's great, you can be saved. If you're a Gentile, you're going to go to hell. That's just all there is to it, because we don't have time to waste on you. You are not believing in God, therefore you're not worth our time. That was where it had gotten very badly. And so he's telling her salvation is from the Jews. The Jews had been given the information, and they were supposed to be spreading it to the Gentiles. That's what they were told back in the Old Testament. Bring the Gentiles in. If they come in, tell them about salvation. Let them be able to be part of salvation. But they wanted to keep it to themselves. And so Jesus is going to continue on in just a moment. We'll pick up next time in verse 23 with where he explains to her how this change is going to take effect.